Let's preview the Seeker's Handbook 2nd edition. This is the original Seeker's Handbook. It's the core rules for Relicblade along with the campaign rules. It's super comprehensive, very fun. This is really like the heart of Relicblade and the way players are able to enter the world and explore what I've created. Now, as an indie game creator, pretty much everything I produce is limited print run. And this was no exception, even though it's the core of the game. I did sell out of the books, and there was an interim where I didn't even have the core rulebook available except through downloads. In my most recent Kickstarter, I produced a campaign book. And as you can see, this is case-bound. The interior is in full color, which is very exciting. This hardbound book, I know not everyone loves hardbound rule books, but it's really nice quality. It's beautiful printing. It gives me the chance to really showcase my art in a nicer way. And I think it makes more of a nice collector's object when it's this durable case-bound book. Also, one thing that's a little bit nerdy is, as an artist, I really love having the opportunity to inscribe the books and do sketches for people. And with this end paper, it gives me a chance to like sign people's books and do sketches, whereas before I didn't really have any space to do that. So that was actually another motivation I had for moving to a case-bound book. So working with the same company that produced this, that's why I wanted to show you this book. I can go into more detail about the Volglands book in another video, but I wanted you to be able to see the quality of this book and get an idea of what's coming next for the Seeker's Handbook, because I don't have the actual book, but I do have the proof from the printer. So the actual books are going to arrive in December and they'll ship then, which I'm running a pre-order now, which is one reason why I wanted to give a preview of the book. So this is the cover, new cover featuring new characters, which is sort of fun. Now, the main things I wanted to show you in this is talk about the core rules and the campaign rules, and talk about what's new. So overall, this book is, one of the major differences, is, of course, is that it's in full color, and it wasn't done under a tight deadline like the various Kickstarter projects, which gave me the opportunity to go really slow and take my time and get into the nitty-gritty and start picking out all of the errors that were in the original text and reorganizing everything into a much more readable and understandable product. Going into a second edition, you can be concerned that the game's changing a lot, or that some of your content that you already have would be out of date. That's not going to happen with this. The only real rules change is in the climbing rules. If you remember from the previous book, the climbing rules were overly complicated, and now I've simplified them a lot. And that really cleans up really one of the only areas of the rules that I felt like didn't represent the core principles of Relicblade, which is for it to be easy to play and very fun and dynamic, and giving you, I want the hard part to be your tactical decisions, not how to perform actions. Like, so climbing is all cleaned up, and so if you're playing Relicblade, that's the only change. The rest of the changes in the core rules are just making it more clear, making the rules more understandable and more beautiful to look at in color. Like an example of making them more clear, I go into detail about free actions and performing actions out of activation, which was just sort of implied in the original books, because I was like, oh, you don't have to spend an action, therefore. And then, so anyways, I get into detail and give examples about some of the more nuanced things in the rules, like summoned creatures and everything. And if you read the rules update, the 2019 rules update, a lot of that stuff is the clarifications that are put in this book. Now, the campaign rules got the most love. I feel like campaign rules are super important to Relicblade, and they really represent the game that I want people to play. And so digging into it, I was as critical as possible, trying to really make decisions about what was working and what wasn't working. Because as an independent creator, I do have the opportunity to fix things with each new print run. You know, fixing things simple like transferring over to being in color because I have more time to put the work into coloring, but also taking the time to fix any errors and then add details. So like one of the simple details is establishing a base. Now there are actual benefits to different types of bases that you can have, and that changes your starting loadout, what types of characters, or rather how equipped your characters will be starting from the very beginning of the campaign. Because before, characters basically started as hobos with no money and nothing, and you had to fight your way through. Now with a base, you get to choose whether you want characters more experienced or you just want more money, that type of thing. So it's still pretty simple, but it adds a lot to the game. There's new campaign sheets that give you the space to fill out all of the details about the character. So you could theoretically be playing just with the roster sheet rather than needing the cards all laid out in front of you. The cards will have the rules, but then you can transcribe it onto the roster sheet. So that's another detail. Also, since its inception, we do have neutral characters, so I added information about that. A lot of this stuff, I fixed some of the rules to make them a little bit more competitive or exciting for the players. But this is the biggest switch, the heroic traits. One of the criticisms I'd have for Relicblade is that you are a little bit detached from your characters. So when you create a character, they become just like an instance of a knight, and then they run, and if they die, that's it. And you might have named them, or you might not have, and that's not such a huge investment in who they are. But with the heroic traits, they actually earn experience as individuals and gain new skills. So this is the actual skills that are innate to that character as you play. So you get to learn more about who they are as you train them in different types of skills. And I think it adds a lot of investment into the character, a ton of investment. It makes them feel way more unique. It makes you learn about who they are, and it's a very, very exciting way to engage with the Relicblade characters. Because one of the main things I'm going for is a game that's very playable and very easy to learn and keep track of. So I didn't want to load it down with like too much character advancement, but I needed another layer that you can't just hire a new character that is, for all intents and purposes, the exact same as the one that just died. So you will have the chance to have a character that has earned traits that won't be replaceable through that campaign if they do die. This is all the same. We've got the main scenarios. We reorganized them so that if you play through the scenarios in order, it will flow a little bit more smoothly, giving you the right types of resources as you play. But the main exciting addition is actually after the core scenarios, which is the Uncharted scenarios. And these are a really exciting thing. I worked with MacLeod to come up with these. He wrote them, I played them and play tested them and edited them, and we worked together and did a ton of play testing on these to get them just right. But basically what happens is you roll for setup, and that will tell you where to place the objectives and where you place your characters, or where you deploy your characters. And then after you're set up, you roll for the objectives, which is really neat because it can change and really surprise you how you end up playing through with different types of horrible monsters showing up, or different types of this one has portals in it. This one has a big monster. This one has actually a bunch of relics, which is super chaotic and fun. This one's really crazy where you're like capturing shards of like a magic being that then its memories inhabit your characters, and they gain extra abilities, but they pass out when it first happens, so it's super dangerous. Anyways, they're very dynamic and fun, and they mix with the different deployment rules, right, for the whatever setup. And so they don't feel... They feel unique each time you play it. And when you combine that with the environments, it's going to be even more dynamic and go way deeper. So getting into the environments, for the most part, if I made changes, it was just like the cost of things or like little details. So there are minor, small changes throughout the book where for like toward a more balanced game or a more exciting game where things that were underpowered got a little bit of a power boost. But for the most part, things are the same and exciting and in full color. And then the last thing, this video is getting a little bit longer than my intention, but let's skip ahead. So we've got monsters. Here. Wounds. So along with heroic traits, there are wound traits, which actually add a lot to the game as far as having permanent injuries that happen to your characters. And that's really fun because, if you have a thief that has a bunch of cool heroic traits and she's super powerful, but she has a crushed hand, like it really changes the feel of the character, and you feel like they've gone through something to get to this point in the quest. And it's very exciting. Like I spent a lot of time thinking about what's fun about wounds and why I would want wounds in the game. And I think this is very close to what I think would be a perfect wound system for Relicblade. Really fitting in the not overly complicated, but enough detail to really serve the story. So like having someone lose their spirit, they just can't keep going. The horrors of battle leave deep scars. And so there's a chance that they're more likely to die later in the game because of this trait. So it's very fun, and you get to like know a little bit about your characters. And then the last thing I want to talk about is the characters. So one of the other criticisms I'd have of the original book is that it didn't include any character classes or character cards in the book. So in order to play, you couldn't just buy the book. You had to buy the book and a pack of cards. Now, straight out of the book, you'll have 2 full-size 100-point warbands of characters, and the warband will be comprised of 1 character from each of the 4 main factions or sub-factions within the alignment. And so that gives you a chance to play a full campaign out of the book with the rules that are in the book, with all of the campaign, the scenarios, everything straight out of the Relicblade Seeker's Handbook. So if you already have miniatures, and then the new Seeker's Handbook is enough to play through the whole game. It'll be more like owning like Frostgrave or something, where you just need the book and then you can use whatever figures. It's not my goal to primarily be producing just rulebooks, because I do love sculpting miniatures and I love the whole thing. I love the cards and everything, but I wanted new players to be able to pick up this book and set it up and play with their friends right away. And so I've carefully designed these characters so they work well with each other, and then also they come from specific factions. So like the Wild Elf Witch comes from the Lostwood Enclave, and so this character also will slot in really well with the Lostwood Enclave faction set. So if you're playing out of this book, you'll get a taste for what the factions are like, and it'll inform your decision about which faction set you'll want to purchase later. So that's the big thing I would want to say about this, or one of the big things I'd want to say about this. The new Seeker's Handbook, you not only have characters, but you have the upgrades that they need, like magic rings and raven brooches and quick shot abilities. You've got skills, you've got environments, you've got 12 scenarios, 6 of which can be replayed dozens of times. I know I have. And And it all together makes a rules manual that's gonna be like a must-have for miniature gamers. You will want this book on your shelf. You'll be able to play Relicblade right away using your D&D figures or your Warhammer figures or whatever, and dive into the world of Relicblade in a way that's way deeper and way more comprehensive than in the past. I hope that you enjoyed this preview of the Seeker's Handbook. I hope that you'll get on relicblade.com and pre-order the book. And if you have any questions about the Seeker's Handbook or any other information about Relicblade, you can comment below, and I'm always there available to answer questions and get into the details. All right, until the next time.